£10 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour for a bunch of stories, including a BBC reporter says, "Shoot the Jews, it fixes everything." It's lucky he works for the BBC instead of QuickFit. And are you renting your house? Well, under Keir Starmer's plans, your landlord might boot you out to make way for illegal migrants. And have Irish pop group Kneecap managed to kneecap their own careers? They called for Tory MPs to be killed. Lucy Connolly got 31 months for saying less. Do we have a two-tier justice system? I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight's comedians joining me are Lewis Schaefer and Nick Dixon. There they are, ready to go. This is Headliners. But before we go through tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Leo, thank you. Your headlines. Pope Francis was laid to rest in Rome after an open-air funeral attended by world leaders and royalty. More than 1 million people lined the streets as his coffin was taken from St. Peter's Square to his favourite church, Santa Maria Maggiore. Prince William, Joe Biden, Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer were among the dignitaries who paid their respects. Over 250,000 mourners viewed the 88-year-old's casket while it lay in state over 3 days. It's the first time in more than a century a pope has been buried outside the Vatican. Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to maintain momentum towards peace in Ukraine during talks in Rome. Downing Street said the two leaders had discussed recent advances towards ending the war. The meeting came on the sidelines of the Pope's funeral, where Zelensky also had a one-on-one with Donald Trump inside St. Peter's Basilica. The Ukrainian president says it was a good meeting that has potential to become historic. Meanwhile, President Trump has admitted Putin might have been stringing him along. Taking to social media site Truth Social, he said that maybe Putin doesn't want to stop the war and has to be dealt with separately. Counter-terror police have taken over the investigation into the Leeds attack, which left 2 women seriously injured. Officers were called to reports of a man carrying weapons, one of which was a crossbow on Otley Road shortly before 3 p.m. today. West Yorkshire Police confirmed that a 38-year-old man was arrested and treated for self-inflicted injuries. And Wrexham AFC have been promoted for the 3rd season in a row under 2 Hollywood megastars. The North Wales-based side has gone from the National League to the Championship in just 3 seasons under its Tinseltown owners, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia, and hello and welcome to Headliners, where we give you the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what the papers have in store for us on today's show. The Telegraph front page says Trump turns against Putin. The Mail has Keir Starmer's ex-girlfriend is pro-trans judge. The Times leads with hopes for peace after Vatican summit. That's Trump and Zelensky again. The Sun has rest in peace. The Express has farewell Francis. The Star has AI is turning us into plonkers with, I think that's a picture of Del Boy and Rodney. So let's have a closer look at tomorrow's front pages. How are you both doing, by the way? I should pretend to be sociable.
I don't know. I'm not doing that great.
OK, well...
I didn't see Lewis Fraser's not been here for ages with me. I thought he'd gone. I thought he'd finally left. I was really happy. Yeah. And I saw him today. I was even happier that he's here.
That's so convincing. That is so nice. That's a total change. Remember how he horribly used to be to me?
You claim it was that way around. You and your internet army of bots.
No, they can send something. I've always been nice to you.
Anyway, let's have a look at tomorrow's Mail on Sunday. It's Keir Starmer's ex-girlfriend is pro-trans judge. So Keir Starmer was in a relationship with a woman.
Yeah, that's hard to believe, and he got out of it, and he hasn't been Me Too'd, maybe. I don't know if he has. But this is a woman. Her name is Maya Secan, KC. She's a high-flying barrister. So he dated a high-flying barrister. Is he allowed to do that, considering he's the head of the Criminal Prosecution Service?
Well, he was a high-flying barrister himself.
Oh, yeah, maybe if they were both doing that. So he's got another girlfriend. I don't know what the name Secan is. They don't have a picture of her, and I didn't do the research because I read all of the things from yesterday's thing.
You read all of yesterday's stories by mistake, just so the viewer knows. You're so across yesterday. It's the most across any stories you've been. Yeah. But they're 24 hours out of date.
I can't believe the only time you prepare for this show, you prepare for the wrong show.
Because people are always getting on my case, and I'm not on that often anymore. I'm thinking I'm being slow-fired. Anyway, this is the Sunday. This is the Mail on Sunday. It's £2.20.
Nick, before Lewis tells us how much it costs, I mean, do you think the fact that Keir Starmer's ex-girlfriend is this pro-trans judge, it shows that Keir Starmer and a lot of the Labour top brass operate in this sort of echo chamber?
How dare you, Leo? Yeah. I mean, to me, it might say that, but it also says that Starmer is such a lawyer. He's like, audite lawyers. Will she enforce the full force of the law? Do you know what I mean? Like, you had to check her legal record. How many murderers has she got let off the death penalty in Uganda? It's like, how many killers in Uganda has she said? That's how it's like, you know, most people like, what's their height? Do you like cooking? For him, it's like, do you like human rights law? That's my theory.
Do you think he had a consent form before he kissed her?
Yes, exactly. And all this, by the way, is satire. Otherwise, it's defamation, but it's satire. It's pure satire. And the only thing I wonder, because I worry about Keir a lot, I worry, is this an indication that the media is turning on him? You know, because he's got very low approval ratings, you know, how Labour are destroying the country and stuff. But the media have been sort of quite nice this time, I feel.
And there were rumbles on Twitter, and of course everything on Twitter is absolutely gospel truth, particularly when it applies to politicians. But there's some sort of rumbling that there's some secret or something that the media had over him that they could pull out at some later date to derail his career. I wouldn't like to speculate as to what that is. Maybe we should just move on and look at the Sunday Times instead.
But can I just say this? That this is not the media. This is the Daily Mail. They're not supposed to like Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you pointed out that they're not liking. They're not supposed to like.
It's the Mail on Sunday.
And anyway, don't we all have friends we shouldn't be friends with? Every time
I'm sitting at a table with them right now.
Yeah.
Well,
every time
colleagues.
you go out with a girl, it's going to be bad.
True, but separate point.
Yeah.
By the way, Lewis thinks it's the Daily Mail because he read Saturdays. It's the Mail on Sunday. Just to clarify.
Mail on Sunday, completely different paper. And we've got the Sunday Times, which is different to the Times.
Yes, it's hopes for peace after Vatican summit. So Trump and Zelensky hold talks as Pope is laid to rest. And what's fascinating about this is they had such a bad meeting. You think like the Oval Office, you think like a safe place to have a meeting. But they said that went so badly. What we'll do, we'll meet again at the Pope's funeral, just on the outskirts, and it's actually gone really well. It's gone much better.
I mean, this could have gone the other way. This could have been like a Glaswegian funeral.
Yeah. I know, just everyone shouting. I know could have been some sort of like Mexican soap opera or whatever, but it's actually gone really well. I didn't see it because I don't think it's televised, but presumably Zelensky went, Mr. Trump. I assume that's probably how it went. And actually, hashing out this peace deal, and Zelensky says it has the potential to become historic. The next part is going to be this 48-hour ceasefire. Then apparently Russia and Ukraine are going to meet face-to-face. Let's see if that happens.
Well, it's a different time. It's a different day. Of course it's going to be different because I think Donald Trump is realizing this thing is not going to be as easy as he thought it was going to be because Russia's winning.
Russia isn't winning. I mean, they're down to their last assault donkeys. They're having to use troops from China and North Korea.
Stop lying to us like you remember the EU.
They burnt through all their stocks. All these stocks of Soviet Union, the BMPs, the tanks and everything, and they burnt through all this heavy machinery that can take troops relatively safely to the front line. And now they're literally going to the front line. The 76th Assault Regiment was one of the primo regiments in the Russian army, and now it's reduced to electric scooters. They look like me going to nursery to pick up my daughter.
Leo, you have to provide balance to this, and you're not providing balance.
I'm providing balance to what you said.
No, you're not. The fact is that Russia is winning. They got 3 times the population size, and what does Ukraine have? It has the backing of Britain.
Nick, I mean...
Isn't it true they'll end up with the land they want, though? Like Trump's accepted Russia's going to gain some land. Would you agree with that? Yeah, they're going to gain, 18% of Ukraine's land, which is a lot less than, what they promised. The original 3-day special military operation was to take the whole of Ukraine. So I'd say, Putin's kind of absolutely lost this one and is kind of... he must be looking feeble and tottering at home because, there's going to be strong men that are, strong younger men, maybe the Kadyrovites. Maybe Kadyrov's going to go in and take power. Who are going to be? It's like the mafia. They're going to usurp him. Just for balance, though, it was harder than he thought. But did he not more or less achieve his objectives? I mean, if you listen to Mersheimer, he says, it's still rational because you can't predict outcomes. If a state is a rational actor, it works on credible information as a group, but it doesn't guarantee outcomes. So the outcome was harder than he thought, but he still ends up with what he went for. He went for the whole of Ukraine, and we don't know how close he was to actually, with the raid on Gostomel Airport, we don't know how close he was to actually taking Ukraine. And maybe a weaker leader would have fled to Europe, into exile, into safety, and done the speaking tours. Didn't he fire the leader? Didn't he fire the general who's in charge of the whole thing? Oh, he's been through a bunch of generals, and he's killed some of them himself. I mean, look at Wagner. But there's some other stories on the front cover here. Well, there's Giuffre killed by toll of abuse, the tragic, definite suicide of Virginia Giuffre, and so that's on there. And we can't speculate about that because it's just happened, and it's a very sad story, obviously. SAS fears over security breach, so there's been a significant breach of security with the SAS. And even when live operations were going on, the information's ended up on the internet. Wow. I'm not a military expert like you, Leo, but that sounds bad to the layman. Yeah, well, I've heard of the SAS. They're really good. There's a computer game, best in the world, I'd say. As a British man. SBS just as good. Let's be. Absolutely. I mean, I'm completely unbiased as somebody who's got a Union Jack flag bathrobe, but the SAS best in the world. What's interesting is how much
data, how much confidential top military secrets gets leaked on computer game forums. I think it's War Thunder. There's some military game, and in the forums for it, people kept leaking just like blueprints for F-22 jets and stuff to win an argument on some daft forum.
That can go wrong. I mean, they did not notice like how long Julian Assange spent in that room. You know, the embassy. Like, do you really want to end up like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at some stories inside the newspaper. We've got the Telegraph now with good news. Labour are going to pay your rent, but you'll have to pretend to be an illegal immigrant, Lewis.
Yes, and this is if you rent homes, there could be money coming in. This is in the Sunday Telegraph, and it's written by a guy who thought money was going to come in because Serco had put out the word that they're going to have some big, huge get-together for all the landlords, where they're going to offer landlords an ability to rent their flats for 5 years, cash immediately.
Yeah, with the government paying, and obviously the government's not going to default. Well, not this year. I mean, the way the government's handling our finances is going to default at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to offer landlords 5 years rent up front, managing, paying for all the repairs on the property, and all they have to do is take in illegal immigrants, which would have created this horrible incentive for landlords to boot out whatever regular working tax-paying British person is in there to make way for people who've entered the country illegally.
And there won't be flats for them to rent, for anybody to rent.
Exactly.
This is horrible. It could be a part of communization, of like, we're going to take over all of the flats. They have the leases already, and they just say, okay, this is ours now. Is that right?
Just quickly, you said pretend to be an illegal immigrant. Lewis doesn't have to pretend. But on a serious note, I mean, I've said this is like the government issuing drone strikes on our towns and cities and villages, because everywhere around the country you're going to place migrants. Think of the social cost for a start. Places like South Lakes, where I'm from, Lancaster, small places, you're just going to put migrants there. It's completely insane and disgusting. Landlords, as this article says, heavily incentivized to go along with it. As you say, bills are paid, everything's done for you. They have to have great moral courage to say no to it, like John Mappin did. You just got to say, if you're a landlord, you have a moral duty to your country to say no to it. But how is this going to work for votes? Because maybe Labour has a plan, I have no idea, to get migrants eventually voting or something. Because when you get a load of migrants suddenly in your little town, you are going to vote against whoever did that. Yeah. You may not admit it in your WI meeting, but you are going to vote against that party. And that's called revealed preference, and you can put your money on that. But if they get enough people in the country voting for Labour, then again, they might vote independent for one of these Palestine people.
And yeah, you've got to remember Team World, the global communists, they're thinking on a long-term scale. If they can bring in enough people into the UK, then, because we're already at, 25% of the people in the UK, were born overseas, or the, descendants, first generation of people born overseas. So if you can bring in enough people who are, likely to vote Labour, then over time, you're tilting the electoral landscape, and by moving them out of the cities and into the suburbs and the leafy places where Tory voters live, then you're tilting the electoral balance towards Labour long term.
They're a very dangerous game, sorry, if that is the case, because we get these independents spring up and then they beat Labour by being more sort of pro-foreign causes.
That's what happens now. But at the end of the day, I think there's an undercurrent is like, we don't care about whether we get re-elected. We just hate white people.
Openly. The government runs training courses about abolishing whiteness. It's insane that, essentially genocide is just written into legislation and openly sort of indoctrinated into people, and nobody's turning around and saying, wait a minute, is it right to abolish whiteness?
Is that a good point?
Yeah, I'm a lefty. I care about small island indigenous populations with gentle, eccentric ways. That's me. I'm like a hippie, really.
Yeah, the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, the Picts, the...
There it is. He's sponsored to say that every show.
The Brooklyn Jews. We've got the Telegraph now with the Equality Commission saying that women's toilets are not for women like me, Nick.
Tragic, isn't it? It's trans women should not be allowed to use women's lavatories, says human rights watchdog. This is the EHRC, not to be confused with the ECHR. Equality and Human Rights Commission. I almost messed it up myself. So now... this shouldn't be a story. It's just that they're going with the Supreme Court judgment. It's only a story because other institutions are ignoring it and ministers are plotting in WhatsApp groups to ignore it. If we had a normal country where people followed the law and we didn't have a narco-tyranny and activist judges and things like that, you'd just be like, yeah, of course they're following the Supreme Court guidance, but it's a notable story that they're actually going to follow it. That's all I've got.
Cool. And what do you make of this?
I make of it that they should stop using the word trans, because you can't trans anything. You can dress up as a girl, but that doesn't make you a girl. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, it does, Lewis.
Maybe it does.
And I don't even need to dress up as a girl.
Maybe it does.
Some sort of...
But that's... Yeah, but that's what it is. The court said when this law was made that this what it meant was girls are girls and boys are boys.
Yeah.
But they're saying...
Kindergarten Cop. This should be called the Kindergarten Cop law.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie.
But you're probably in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of feel like the trans law be pushed too hard, too far. You had, male rapists being put in women's prison because they self-identified as women. You had Roxanne Tickle demanding, this is a big burly bloke, demanding to be allowed onto a women's only app. You had lesbians, being told that they had to have men in their spaces. You had me identifying as a transgender newsreader. So it all got pushed to a ridiculous place, and then this, if they just left it alone, they would have probably, had a more, something that was less harsh and unyielding than the law that they got at the end.
I'm not so sure. It's like in America, 80%, there's an 80-20 rule in America. 80% of the people are against this trans chassarai, as we would say. And I think over time, people...
But if you look at the, really ugly pink-haired freaks and communists, they love all the trans stuff. I saw that protest. I was like, my God, this is the worst thing for the trans movement ever. I was like, everybody, this is like the circus coming to town.
Because it annoys people like me. That's why they're against it. We're in favor of it because it's like the way my kids would do things just to irritate me. Just because they're kids. This is what kids do. They want to see their parents.
Are you saying the entire trans rights debate is to annoy you?
Totally true.
And lots of
true. Ultimate narcissist.
How can we get to Louis Schaefer?
Lots of organisations are saying they're going to ignore the trans ruling by the Supreme Court. So do you think they're going to be liable if there is an incident? If some burly bloke who says he's called Susan, does something in one of the toilets, as we've seen many times. Many times these people film their crimes themselves. Then one of these organisations that says they're gonna defy the Supreme Court ruling could be liable.
Yeah, but then you just get an actress judge sides with them, or brings them out a secret entrance out the back, like they're doing in America.
OK, well, let's move on. We've got the completely unbiased iNews now with Trump's imminent collapse. Haven't they been saying he's about to collapse imminently for about a decade, every week?
Every week, and they hate it. This is iNews, which is, I think it's I don't know, I think it's £1.70 tomorrow. Trump's agenda is unraveling, and Americans are taking note, and it's all about how 3 or 4 opinion polls, which did horribly in the last election, which have a horrible track record, are basically tools of the Democratic Party, if there is a Democratic Party anymore, how they hate Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has bothered people, but you have to remember, in America, half the people are totally with Donald Trump. And according to the polls that I've seen, it's like 55-45, so it's a majority.
What's interesting this time round, though, is, his popularity is dropping faster than it did in the first term. So I think we've got to go to a break. We're running over. We're going to go to a break now, but coming up, we've got The Telegraph and lots more stories from inside the papers. See you in a moment. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Common sense, I would suggest, has finally prevailed. The World Athletics Association has announced that they will introduce mandatory sex testing for anyone competing in female competition. The Olympic legend, Sharon Davies. Sharon, how do you feel about this?
Well, first of all, obviously extremely pleased. It's in something I've been trying to get done for the last 10 years when the IOC changed the rules in 2015 and basically threw women's sport totally under the work PC bus. on no peer-reviewed science whatsoever, and there's never been any peer-reviewed science ever in the world to show that we can remove male puberty advantage. And that's the whole reason why we have male and female races. You know, we can show that even in primary school children, little boys tend to run about 5% faster, and they jump and throw much further than little girls do. So we also have a Q angle, which is our angle from our hips to our knees. That's wider in a female for obvious reasons for childbirth. That puts more pressure on our knees, gives us more knee injuries, but allows males to have more cadence, because obviously they're directly above their legs and their quads and their, you know, the hamstrings, etc. So there's lots of benefits to being male that you can't remove by reducing testosterone, even if it was all the way through puberty.
This has also had a lot of criticism. Some people say, well, this is discriminatory to athletes that might have complex biological profiles, as they would call it. What would you say to that?
Well, it depends what you're calling complex biological profile. So if you were Caster Semenya, for example, you're biologically male, you're 46 ARD. So that means that you went through male puberty, you are male, but when you were born, sadly, you were picked up and they couldn't see your very small penis and your testes were internal. So they went, oh, this must be a female, we'll put a female on your birth certificate. But you're biologically male, and if that person had been born in this country, if there'd been any ambiguity, they would have given them a blood test and then known straight away.
The People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/your say to see what you've been saying. Richard, a.k.a. Anglo Tractor or something, says, talking about women's toilets will be red meat to Lewis. Not entirely sure what that means. Might be a private joke. And English Rose says, well done, Lewis, speaking the truth. Obviously, somebody very drunk there. And let's just pick up that story about Trump's popularity declining. I have seen it in some polls, even with Republicans, his popularity is declining.
Yeah,
because of the economy.
And then they ask people, what do you like? Look, what's going on with inflation? In America, inflation's like dropped incredibly, supposedly. Is that eggs have gone down, like we're $8 for a dozen, and now they're like $3 or something. So they've gone down, but yet only 33% approve of Trump on inflation. You know, so what is it?
I don't know if inflation has been such a slam dunk for Trump.
Well, so
it hasn't gone up. It's gone half.
Unless you specifically say my name, he will just talk.
All right, Nick, please, you talk.
And sometimes still then as well.
Yeah. And no, Lewis, just so we're clear about that, Lewis, shut up.
They'll get his whole fan club attacking me now. And by the way, and don't let Trump's fan club attack me either. I've been the most pro-Trump person in the world, except for literally, well, even more. I was going to say Melania, but more pro-Trump than Melania. But he is losing a bit of ground here because I think it's because of tariffs, maybe inflation, the economy in general. Not only the tariff plan, which seemed a bit all over the place, but then blinking. Even if you didn't like the tariffs, you also maybe didn't like the blinking because, suddenly pausing it. Because, at worst, it's like losing to China, and at best, no one wins. And the Americans like winning, so it's not clear that they're winning on that. And then you've got Ukraine. But if he can get the peace deal, suddenly his approval will go way back up, right?
I don't think Americans care about the peace deal. I don't think they care about
but they care about ending the war in Ukraine.
They care a little bit about it.
I think Ukraine is, it's quite a big deal for people in America. And also a lot of Americans, certainly the ones I speak to, still have this view of Russia being, the Soviet state.
Bad guy.
Being the bad guy.
I'm thinking of the Trump base who just desperately want to end the war because they don't want all their money going to it, which is a big part as well.
I don't think they think about it that much, but I agree with you. Okay,
well, you're American, so I'll defer to you this one time.
I want to defend tariffs. We don't know what Donald Trump is doing, and that's what makes Donald Trump one of the greatest presidents ever. I remember I lived through Nixon and the Vietnam situation, and we didn't know what he was going to do, and he gave him this
look. How did that work out for him?
It worked out pretty good for... People didn't care about that.
Nixon's a hero.
But Nixon is a hero. I didn't think he was a hero, but he is a hero. And that's what's going to happen with tariffs.
But the thing is, you say, we don't know what Trump is doing with these tariffs, but we'd like to have the impression that Trump knows what he's doing with these tariffs. I think that's what people are worried about. He gives the impression of making it up as he goes along.
The people of America are too stupid to understand what Donald Trump is.
You know what? One thing is, though, if Trump's approval gets too bad, he'll do something because he's obsessed with numbers, isn't he?
Yeah.
Tremendous numbers are his main thing.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a look at some more front pages with the Sunday Telegraph, Lewis.
Oh, the Sunday Telegraph. Is this... Okay, yeah. This is the Telegraph, which I think is... Let me find out how much it is for tomorrow. £3.50. It's not much more expensive on the weekend, and it's very thick. It's got the whole magazines and stuff. Trump turns against... No, that's important to the people. They want to know. You're so Mr. like newspaper.
I'm just waiting for you to read the story.
Trump turns against Putin, it says on the front page. President rages over Russian attacks after historic meetings with Zelensky at the funeral for the Pope. And basically, he's meeting with Zelensky in this beautiful room. Not even a room. They just put him in the middle of with a couple of chairs. I mean, it's like this reminds me when I was at Temple Bethel, and the rabbi came over to me and sat me down. He was very unhappy. But
were you telling him the price of the Daily Mail?
He didn't like that either. Would you stop being like Josh? Anyway.
Is that what you told the rabbi?
Yeah, stop being like Josh.
He was Josh.
He says Josh is more Jewish than I am. Anyway, so because he's he thought he would come in and he would say, listen, let's just stop fighting. Everything's going to be okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
Because Putin wants to beat this guy Zelensky. He was embarrassed by the Kiev thing.
Well, also I think Trump had sent out the message to Ukraine and to Russia, stop fighting. And then what did Putin do? He didn't just continue fighting. He fired ballistic missiles, really nasty, big munitions and rockets into residential areas of Kyiv and other cities in Ukraine.
Yeah, horrible. And it's got Trump finally saying, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along. And that's the first time Trump said anything like that. He's always been like, we're great friends. I think we respect each other. We get on. Tough guy, all this sort of thing. Now he's finally going, oh, actually, he seems to be messing me around. It's a great picture, isn't it? That's a silhouette of Trump. It's not a silhouette, but, you get Trump's classic profile there.
Yeah.
That's how you look sometimes on some of these wide shots. It makes you look like a hunchback. But I love the picture of Trump there. By the way, Tim Stanley as well is saying that it's kind of quite a whimsical idea, but he's saying it's like the Pope beyond the grave still being political and helping the peace process.
Yeah, his last act. Amazing. And moving on, the Sunday Express also has the funeral with another iconic image.
Yeah, Farewell Francis. That is a great image on the Sunday Express. And there's been stuff as well about apparently there's transgender mourners, and prisoners and prostitutes have gone to sleep. So a lot of people are trying to, I feel like, pay respects to the Pope, but there's a sort of an element of, I know he was quite political, but there's an element of politicising it. I've seen some people on the left kind of claiming various victories about...
How can you say it's just them claiming it? He's a total political creature. I am not Catholic. He's the people's princess. Who's going to be the Catholic princess? No, that's the other one. The people's pope, sorry. Who's going to be the pope for Catholic people? This guy basically, he is just a representative of Team World. It's all about, all the different montages of stuff that's going on in the Team world.
Yeah.
And
I think you might have a point. When I saw transgender mourners, prisoners and prostitutes at his funeral, I thought, what does he think? He's in the Church of England? I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah. But then, I guess some people would say he always had great affection and stood up for poor people and oppressed people. So, this is them, I guess.
Did you watch Conclave? I've already done a rant about it on my podcast. I was trying to understand how they choose new pope. I watched Conclave. It's the most woke, absurd film ever. Don't watch it. With the most ridiculous woke twist. But also, on your point, Lewis, there was a traditional cardinal in there who's saying all these things. We're meant to see him as evil. He's saying the Pope should be Italian and we need to be more conservative. Europe's under threat. I'm just going, yep, that guy's absolute legend. But he's meant to be the baddie. You're meant to hate him.
Right, and
support the baddie.
And this guy, the Pope. I'm not going to say...
This guy, the Pope.
This guy, I don't... You know what? All I know about him is he's as woke as Prince Charles or King Charles. That's what he is. He's like...
He's
like... If you were Catholic and you want the Catholicism to survive, you would not want another guy like this. You want someone who's going to fight for your team, and your team is Catholicism.
Who are you backing, Lewis? Are you backing
a conservative?
Sarah.
Yeah.
Conservative Ugandan guy. That's who you want. Well, let's look at some stories inside the paper. We've got the Telegraph now with the BBC's least anti-Semitic reporter, Nick.
Yes, it's "We'll burn Jews like Hitler did," says BBC contributor in Gaza. This is Sama Elzanen, perhaps. I don't know how to pronounce it. But he has appeared on BBC Arabic more than a dozen times. And he's posted things like in 2022 on Facebook. He said, when things go awry for us, shoot the Jews, it fixes everything. Very different from the normal boomer chat on Facebook. He said all sorts of shocking stuff. We shall burn you as Hitler did, but this time we won't have a single one of you left. I mean, this is grim stuff. And then he's been on the BBC, and of course they say the usual thing, these are not members of staff, they're just reporting eyewitness accounts and so on. But you do wonder, if the same guy's popped up more than a dozen times, at some point do they go, hang on, let's not put this guy on? Because, and it makes you wonder, do we need a BBC Arabic? I can understand the argument for it, because it gives out, key information and things, but can you really trust the BBC anymore to do that job?
Yeah, absolutely. And is it tainting the BBC's brand? And I mean, should Jews pay the TV licence now that the BBC is employing people like this, even if it's in a freelance capacity?
Well, what does the BBC stand for? Big Brother Communications, and this is just one arm of them. It's like, do British people hate Jews? No, they don't hate Jews, but they give a lot of money for killing Jews. They let a lot of people into the country that hate the Jews, and those people who hate Jews, they're going after you. They're going after Christians and non-believers, because that's what they. You're getting me all upset with a story like this. We should not be covering this. This is supposed to be a comedy program.
Well, this. I mean, there's lots of funny things about this. I mean, he said when things go wrong, shoot the Jews. It fixes everything. So I mean, it's lucky he didn't open a B&Q.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at what he says, his just rampant hatred for Jews really, ironically, shows why Israel has to exist, because the Jews need a homeland where they'll be protected. I mean, they obviously won't be safe if they're living amongst people like this.
Well, you're acting like this is one guy. It's not just one guy. The book that they look at all the time, the one book that they have.
The BBC Charter.
We're not going to say, well, yeah, it could be. It has 44 incidences in this very relatively short book about killing the Jews.
Yeah, they're
into killing Jews. If you like killing Jews, you go for this team.
If you didn't know that already.
Yeah.
OK, well, that's it for this section. Coming up after the break, we've got the front page of The Observer. We've got lots more stories, including a story about how Germany and some other countries in Europe are going to be stripping citizenship for crimes. See that? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got The Observer here, Lewis.
Oh, this is The Observer. One mistake, and their Germanness.
No, this is the front page.
Oh, front page. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you stop looking at your phone and listen
Well,
to me.
I'm watching all the positive comments about me. People like me. Thank you very much. You can tweet me at lewisschafer.co.uk.
Great.
Whatever it is, Lewis Schaefer, L-E-W-I-S. Okay, this is The Observer. The Pope's last act is a picture of, not even any words. You can put words there. This is £2.30 for subscribers. For The Observers.
And the Mirror, Sunday's Mirror.
You want me to do the Mirror? Yeah, I'm happy to. It's Hope Amid the Tears. And it's an interesting picture of Trump and Zelensky in the sort of bottom right corner, like they're doing a reaction video to the funeral. Yeah. And then there's a nun at the top kissing a picture of the Pope. One difference with the old C of E, you don't get that kind of thing. But the Pope's a sort of revered figure in himself. Key difference.
Yeah,
I'm not siding with one of them. Well, I'm siding with C of E because I am. But.
Yeah, and a picture of the coffin there, which is quite a sort of simple, stripped-back affair. You know, Pope Francis was quite clear that he just wanted a simple. I mean, well, these things are relative. It's a bit fancier than my dad's funeral, but you know, quite a simple burial and to be put in the ground. And let's have a look at some stories inside the paper. We do have The Observer now with multiculturalism on thin ice in Europe. Lewis.
Yeah, good news or bad news, I don't know. One mistake and their Germanness is gone. How idea of stripping citizens for crimes spread across Europe. And this is common. You're invited into the country, you break the law, you get kicked out. You know, you got to follow the rules. Even I was told I got to follow the rules. I was told you can't take money out of the government, that I didn't take money out of the government.
Well, the things have certainly changed since the 1940s or whenever you came across. I mean, this is now, it seems anybody can come to the UK and other European countries and claim benefits and commit all the crime they want. And all that happens is they get their own column in The Guardian.
It is true, because you got people walking around like they own the place. They don't own the place. I don't own the place. When I'm sitting here and I say stuff, I hope you don't believe what I'm saying, because it's not my place to say things. I'm not English. I'm not British. I'm not an Anglo-Saxon. I'm not a Celt.
Or a Jute.
Or a Jute. Or a Celt. Or from Lancaster or Cumbria, wherever I'm from. I'm not. And you shouldn't let people do that. Their kids could do that. But they should not do that.
Well, and that's what we're seeing. Second and third generation migrants are sometimes, less socially assimilated.
Well, yeah, it's a strange piece, this. I mean, they have this thing about citizenship becoming a privilege rather than right. Well, it's a right if you're from here, but if you just come over, then, of course, it is a privilege that can be stripped. I mean, dual nationals in Germany who commit offences, why shouldn't they be stripped of it? But it's The Observer, so, you know, I disagree with their imperialism. They want anyone to be able to come over to these small, settled communities, little islands, things like that, where hobbits live. And for some reason, they're imperialists and want them to be conquered by, in many cases, patriarchal, intolerant cultures. So the Observer's a bit too far right for me on this. I'm just a sort of, like I say, a hippie who cares about little communities surviving, little indigenous... As
I do. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, the Guardian, The Observer, same paper, I don't know how they're operating behind the scenes, but the fact is that's racism. They hate white people. They hate the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes.
And this is going to be a great incentive for people to behave properly and not commit any crime. If you commit crime, you get turfed out of Germany and sent back to wherever you're from. So I can understand why it's not just Germany, Sweden and Finland are also looking at this.
Or America too, like the case of that guy. He was put, you know, he said, we're shipping you out. They said, you can't do it.
Absolutely. We've got the Mail on Sunday now with the try-hard, pro-Hamas, anti-establishment pop group Kneecap taking legal action against their critics. Wait a minute, isn't the legal system part of the establishment, Lewis?
Is this me or is this Nick?
I don't know.
This one's
What are we up to? Are we 7? 7. Well, this is the anti-British balaclava. That's that head mask thing for Americans who are watching. British people, I think you know what it is. Rap group Kneecap say they're taking action against their critics after being caught shouting pro-Hamas chants at a gig. And they did this in this country, and they did this in America. And Sharon Osbourne, who's super famous in America, and she was famous here, but she was Ozzy Osbourne's wife, and she was the daughter of the manager of of this.
What did she say?
She says, I'm Jewish and half whatever, and half Catholic, and I don't like it, and they should not be in the country, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be because pro-Palestinian people, nothing personal, are against America, and they're against Britain. And
Nick, they have said some pretty egregious stuff. And the funny thing about it for me is, like, Kneecap think that they're this anti-establishment group, and they've got the same dull opinions as every single, Gary Lineker, BBC, Guardian establishment figure.
But they are pushing the line in one way, Leo. They're saying kill your local MP, which has now caught the attention of the counter-terror police. So that's a shocker, isn't it? That is so incredible. They also say they're still on the British occupation in Ireland, I suppose. I mean,
they're from Northern Ireland.
Wait for the new occupiers and see how that goes. But anyway, I sort of agree with you, Leo. But they are now saying such crazy stuff that it's almost getting dangerous in a sense. Well, it's not for me to say; it's for counter-terror police.
And I think it's going against the Irish people, because the Irish people are from both sides of the border are turning against this Chazarai. I'll say it again.
That's the interesting thing we saw in the riots in Ireland, and the protests, the anti-immigrant protests in Ireland. So the Irish Republican side and the Loyalist side, who were bitter enemies and killing each other for so long, united to oppose the mass immigration and what they see as the colonisation of Ireland. So if it can unite people like that, then I don't think these people are representing any sort of Irish Republican sentiment.
But you have to keep in mind that they are Northern Irish, and these people are angry.
Yeah.
They're looking for something to be angry about. You don't know whether they believe this or not. You'd fight
now they're going to be angry with you on
Yeah. Well, coming up in the next section, we'll be giving the front page of The Sun the once over. We've got lots more stories from inside. This is Headliners on GB News.
We're going so fast.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are thinking of heading south for a holiday, it's looking sunny in Spain, but very wet in Sardinia, whilst Greece is currently experiencing showers, and they'll continue into Sunday. Keen breeze here as well, particularly for the islands. Showers also for Italy, but mostly inland and over higher ground. It's Sardinia and also Majorca where we're likely to see some lively thunderstorms, whilst plenty of sunshine prevails across Spain. And Portugal, more sunshine to come through the week ahead.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. The second half of the weekend will promise more sunshine around for many of us, particularly across England and Wales. Though for Northern Ireland and Scotland, the cloud is likely to be thickening as we head throughout this evening and overnight. A band of rain is going to be pushing its way into the northwest of the UK. Some heavy pulses are possible, and the rain will be quite persistent for the Highlands and Argyll and Bute. Quite windy in amongst all of this as well, particularly around the coastal regions. But if you manage to see some clearer spells across England and Wales, temperatures will at least drop down towards mid-single figures as we do start off Sunday. Nevertheless, that rain is going to be in play across northern areas of the UK. Quite damp, dreary and drab, unfortunately, across the bulk of Scotland to start off Sunday. And the rain will persist here, particularly across western areas of Scotland throughout a good portion of the day. The rain perhaps easing a little bit for Northern Ireland, but certainly it is going to remain fairly grey and cloudy. Still some drizzle will persist. But whilst there'll be some mist and fog around for England and Wales first thing tomorrow morning, that will be clearing off quite readily. And once we head into the late morning, mid-afternoon, there'll be a good amount of sunshine developing across these two nations. So if you're running the marathons in Manchester or London, it will be staying dry. Though with that sunshine, temperatures will be responding, and we'll be seeing highs of 20 to 23 degrees Celsius. So it is going to be rather warm out there for anyone running, and some water will certainly be needed. As we head into the latter stages of Sunday and into Monday, high pressure is trying to build its way in from the continent. But this frontal system in the far north is going to be very slow moving, so still some outbreaks of rain for northern Scotland as we head into the start of the new working week. Elsewhere, though, it is going to be turning dry once again. The sunshine permeating a little bit further north now into parts of more northern England, parts of Northern Ireland and southern Scotland as well. For many of us, it is going to be a nice, fine day. And we can expect more of that as we head throughout the rest of this week. Temperatures likely to be peaking on Wednesday in the mid to high 20s. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
On Thursday, the 1st of May, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections.
Mayoral elections and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m. on Friday morning, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. on Thursday.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay to see what you've been saying. Mark Johnson says, so Germany will kick out immigrant criminals who'll then buy a dinghy, go to France and end up here, swearing eternal allegiance to UK and be allowed to stay forever. Yeah, that's likely the thing that's going to happen. Richard Toulson says, I'm knackered but can't go to bed just yet. Nick and Leo are so knowledgeable and funny.
Great comment.
Great comment.
Wait, what about me?
You're also...
Lewis also features.
Let's look at some more front pages. We've got the Daily Star here, Lewis. If you can be
Daily Star, we're moving up. Okay.
Yeah, the Daily Star. No, the front page.
Oh, the front page. Oh, sorry.
It's beyond some people. The technicalities of this show it involves looking at paper.
Well, because they changed the rules after 2.5 years.
The rules on you.
Anyway, the rise of chatbots making humans thick. AI turning us into plonkers. They're saying we're not as smart as we used to be because we've got the internet.
Yeah,
because we've got books. We don't need to be smart. We can sit there and think about stuff and make us prettier, maybe.
Yeah.
Because of AI, but...
Yeah, do you think the internet's making us idiots? I think it gives us access to all this knowledge.
Well, it's saying AI. It's saying the boffins are saying we're using AI too much. I think we've only just started to use it. We're going to use it way more.
You know what? I think that's
Lewis
enough.
Needs it to
that's
find
enough
the
front pages.
Yeah, to find how much it costs. How much does it cost? £2.10 for tomorrow's Star.
It's cheaper than the Telegraph. I'm not sure if it's quite as substantial. Well, let's look at some stories inside the newspapers. We've got the Mail on Sunday now, and if you work for the NHS and want to skive, you can just say you're trans, Nick.
Yeah, it's NHS diversity manager says trans staff who feel unsafe after... It's so loaded when I read it like that. Who feel unsafe after Supreme Court gender ruling should be allowed to work from home in memo to staff. This is Melanie Holloway. That's her name, not where she works from home from. And it's... She put out a memo on NHS England intranet. Luckily, it was only the intranet, or we would have all found out about it and be mocking it on telly.
They still have an intranet.
Yeah. And basically, she said because people will feel unsafe after this ruling, they get to stay home. When we were at school, we just had snow we were banking on. You know what I mean? Then we could stay home. Now it's like Supreme Court rulings. We feel so bad we have to stay at home. It's a great... I won't say scam would be too strong.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, there's all this focus on how trans women like me are, feel about this ruling. But what about actual women? What about how they felt before? What about the women who've been persecuted for standing up for their rights, to have a biological sex?
Well, that's kind of an offensive thing to say, Leo, because maybe they don't want to... Maybe they're taking their side, or maybe they don't want to be put in an awkward position to have to fight for just the normal things that they were fighting for years.
I don't understand anything you just said. I understood all the words individually, but not together.
No, he's saying, why don't the women fight for their rights?
No, I'm saying, what about the women who've been persecuted, who've been you know, fired or demoted because they stood up for their biological rights? The women who might have felt unsafe. How come, if a man who says he's a woman feels unsafe when he goes into a toilet, that's something we all have to be super concerned about. But if a woman feels unsafe because a man pretending
is lurking there horribly,
then the woman is seen as a bigot and must be punished.
I don't understand why you're talking in a hypothetical abstract. If you're a trans woman and trans women are women, you should know how you feel as a woman.
I am a trans woman, and I am a real woman, probably.
Though your hair is looking great.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very feminine. The Telegraph now, with woke progressive lefties ruining parks for people. Wait till this journalist sees what they've done to entire countries, Nick.
Yes, it becomes a no-go zone all summer, how music festivals are ruining British parks. And if you've been alive in London, you'll know that you're like, oh, what's that incredible noise? Oh, it's a park miles away playing incredibly loud music, ruining our day.
Yeah.
And as it points out here, it's suddenly like hiving off areas of the park which you should be able to access.
For weeks at a time, not for like a day, for weeks.
And you can't even take your kids down to get eaten by an XL bully.
Yeah, I mean, I would say ban it. I mean, 54% of the Telegraph people who responded said ban them. I would say, what about only acoustic instruments and you can only play folk or classical?
Yeah.
Or the music that I like. This is...
What do you like?
I like The Clash.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, 19...
Sorry.
No, that's quite a London... That's appropriate to hear it walking around.
Or The Damned, or The Dead. Not the Grateful Dead. But the point is this has happened in my neighbourhood at Peckham Rye Park. They have the Gala Festival every year in May. And it's like, it's not even music. It's maybe... That's what we old people would say. It's not music, but it's like that thumping.
It's just noise, Lewis.
Yeah.
It's not music.
And you can't go down and have a picnic. It's terrible. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Telegraph leads with Trump turns against Putin. The Mail has Keir Starmer's ex-girlfriend is pro-trans judge. The Times has hopes for peace after Vatican summit between Trump and Zelensky. The Sun has rest in peace, that's Pope Francis. The Express also has farewell Francis. And the Star has AI is turning us into plonkers. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Lewis and Nick. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick and Lewis Schaefer. I'm not sure if we're going to have that lineup again. That might be a typo. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. And I hope to see you tomorrow with Nick and Lewis.
No,
You've done 3 in a row. Do you want to come back?
No,
We'd love to have you
my
back.
day off.
OK, well, bye.
That's it.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. The second half of the weekend will promise more sunshine around for many of us, particularly across England and Wales. Though for Northern Ireland and Scotland, the cloud is likely to be thickening as we head throughout this evening and overnight. A band of rain is going to be pushing its way into the northwest of the UK. Some heavy pulses are possible, and the rain will be quite persistent for the Highlands and Argyll and Bute. Quite windy in amongst all of this as well, particularly around the coastal regions. But if you manage to see some clearer spells across England and Wales, temperatures will at least drop down towards mid-single figures as we do start off Sunday. Nevertheless, that rain is going to be in play across northern areas of the